Netanyahu posted on X, reiterating his stance on the two-state solution, saying Israel rejects international calls for a permanent settlement with the Palestinians, and Israel will continue to oppose the recognition of a Palestinian state. Gideon Levi is a columnist at Harrez newspaper. He joins us from Tel Aviv. And Gideon, for any of us who've been following Netanyahu since the 1990s, I guess it's not a huge surprise that he's opposed to a two-state solution.
No, it is a big surprise from those who are surprised. How can you be surprised? I mean, the project of his life was to avoid any possibility of a Palestinian state. Not only this, to avoid any kind of negotiations with the Palestinians. He did anything possible and succeeded, by the way, to put off the Palestinian problem off the table for many, many years now, until came the 7th of October and reminded him that he cannot continue with this forever. But to expect him now to get into negotiations over a Palestinian state is really ridiculous. What is serious is the great opportunity that we are facing now, because we are facing an opportunity, but this is an opportunity of the international community. Israel shouldn't be even asked, because Israel refused for decades, even before Netanyahu, to go for a real settlement. And therefore, the international community, that's its time to say enough is enough. We cannot handle it anymore. Israel is going to a war every few years, destroyed Gaza, and then the international community has to rehabilitate Gaza. It put a risk over the whole world. All kinds of other tensions rise because of the conflict here. It's enough to leave it to Israel. That's the time that the international community will try to impose a solution, because otherwise it will last like this forever.
On the point, since you mentioned the international community, it may not be a surprise what Netanyahu has said. Should we be surprised, though, how easily some Western countries seem to have gone along with Israeli requests at this point? But Ireland's foreign minister is one of those who is characterising some of these Israeli requests as a disinformation campaign to undermine a Palestinian state and the right of return for Palestinian refugees.
Yeah, Netanyahu succeeded to fool the world for so many years, but it's not Netanyahu's fault. It's first of all the international community's fault that followed the bluff, and it was convenient to everybody. Let's not be hypocritical about it. If it would have been really important for the United States to find a solution, the United States knows very well how to get to a solution and how to put pressure on Israel, not by condemnations, not by declarations for Truno. Israel can easily ignore it by simple measures. The United States never had done it. The international community, including the EU, had never done it. And maybe now time will come to do it. And countries like Ireland were always lonely voices, even within the EU, because the EU supported the occupation. Let's face it.
Has Netanyahu's alternative for a Palestinian state been clear? What is the alternative? It's unlikely that he wants to allow Palestinians and Palestinian refugees back in a one-state solution. So what's the alternative to that? Continued occupation and what international and Israeli human rights groups call apartheid in an open-ended manner?
First of all, there is no other way to call it but apartheid. It's not only a human rights organization. I mean, anyone who looks at the situation on the ground knows it is apartheid, and there's no reason to ignore it. Yes, Netanyahu really doesn't believe in any kind of settlement with the Palestinians. He doesn't believe in it. The thought is that apartheid can last forever, and this situation, handling the dispute, as he used to call it, can last forever. Here and there will be some crisis. Here and there will be like some carrots, like improving the financial, economical situation of the Palestinians. And Israel will continue to govern brutally in another people of 5 million people in the West Bank and Gaza forever. Why not? We are the chosen people. Let's not forget it.
Listening to some of the statements by some of the Israeli cabinet members, looking at several cabinet members joining an event to encourage what they called voluntary emigration of Palestinians, is the idea of mass expulsion and ethnic cleansing becoming a policy, shall we call it, option for this current Israeli government?
This is the wet dream of many Israelis, even maybe also not only in the very far right, not only the lunatics, but even more reasonable Israelis. Not the majority, obviously, by all means not. It is a solution, by the way. That's a final solution. This will put an end to the Palestinian problem. But everyone knows that this will never happen. Those lunatics and others dream that under the shade of a terrible war, maybe even more terrible than the war in Gaza now, something will happen and the Palestinians will have to leave the Gaza Strip. Same thing might happen in the West Bank. Don't forget that they are, for years now, trying to push the Palestinians in the Jordan Valley and in the Hebron Mountains, both the two extreme points of the West Bank. They try to push them by tyrannizing their lives in order to make them leave. The only problem is that the Palestinians are much stronger than this, and they don't leave. For many years, Israelis believe that if we just tyrannize them enough, they will just take their stuff and go away. Unfortunately, this didn't happen and will not happen. It's only under a total, terrible war when it might happen. Let's hope we will not get there.
All right, thanks so much, Gideon Levy, for sharing your analysis and thoughts on that.
Thank you.